Hey everybody, how are you? I hope that you are doing well and that your week is going good so far. I am back today. I've been absent for a couple of days from my Plein Airpril little kick, and that's because I got a new commission, and when I get commissions, I kind of put everything else to the side so that I can concentrate on that, and this one involved doing quite a few sketches and working things out. It's going to be a bigger commission. It's actually going to be in oil. But when I do commissions, I not only like to do a sketch, which is what you're seeing right here, I like to also do a color study just so that when I start working on the final painting, I can approach it with a lot of confidence because I've already worked through a lot of the challenges ahead of time through the sketching, value studies, color studies. I like to go all out and do my best. I really kind of enjoy this whole planning process because, when I'm painting for myself, it's usually just plein air paintings or really quick alla prima paintings if it's oil or watercolor sketches, things like that. So I kind of just approach those as they come up. I don't do a lot of planning, but I actually do enjoy the planning process, and I like to kind of work through things because every time I do some kind of painting and it's sort of a one-off thing, in the end I'm always thinking about what I might have done differently, how I could have approached it in a different way to address certain issues that came up. And it's pretty rare, I gotta be honest, that I actually go back and redo it because if it's just for me, it was just kind of for fun, for practice, and I usually will just leave it at that and kind of do the mental work, but not really go back through and fix a lot of things. So what's kind of nice about approaching it with more planning and care and consideration is that in the end, you end up really liking what you've done. And of course, it's a commission, so my aim is to also make my client happy, and I love doing that. So doing commissions, it's just a little bit of a different approach for me. It's more methodical, it's more careful, planned out, a little bit more perfectionistic, which usually when I'm doing paintings, that's the tendency that I have that I try to suppress a little bit and let go of. But I get to sort of, embrace that when I'm doing commissions, and it usually works out pretty well for me. So I am doing a little color study. This is really just for me when I'm working with a client, and for this project and many of the projects that I get asked to do, it's usually a scenario in which the customer has an idea of a painting that they want. They kind of have a loose idea in their mind of what they want this composition to be, and they'll often have photo references, but there's no one photo reference that really captures the composition that they have envisioned. They usually have lots and lots of photo references, and they'll explain to me how they kind of see this coming together. And so then my job becomes trying to put their ideas into a visual form, and that's where I do a lot of sketching, and I send them rough drafts of these very rough sketches, and I'm always thankful that my clients are understanding of how rough these sketches can be. And then we kind of go from there, and we work until the composition looks right to my client, and then I kind of take it from there. I thought about doing this color study with gouache just because the way that you paint with gouache can be very similar to the way that you paint in oil. And I don't remember if I mentioned, but the final painting will be in oil, not watercolor. Ultimately, I just was really missing my watercolors. I've been doing a lot of gouache paintings lately, and sometimes I wish that I just was like a one medium artist, like just focused on one medium, got really good at that. But I don't know, my moods vary, and when my mood is in such a way that I want to do watercolor, then that's what I want to do. So I just really needed to get my watercolors out today, kind of splash those around. I was thinking about watercolor today and how, I've seen a lot of paintings that were like gouache or acrylic and oil, and sometimes you don't even know what they are until you actually read the description from the artist and they tell you what medium they used. but you can't confuse watercolor with anything else. It's such a unique medium, and you work with it in such a unique way too. So I was just really kind of thinking about watercolor and really missing it, and realizing that I haven't had time to sit and actually do any tutorials lately, just because work has been crazy. That is another story. But also I've been trying to do the Plein Airprils, and usually, after I get off of work, my time is, pretty limited. I'm also in school, so I have to do homework as well. So lately I've been doing the Plein Airprils, and I just have not had any time to do any tutorials, and I've really been missing my watercolors. So, I decided that this color study was going to be in watercolor, and it really doesn't matter how I do the color study. The important thing is that I start thinking through some of the challenges, especially when working from a photo reference. And in particular, the photo for this composition doesn't exist. So all of the photo references that I have are from different angles. They are depicting very different things. Some are close-ups, and some are more panoramic, and there's figures in this composition, and so I think that that's actually going to be the biggest challenge for me, because even though the oil painting will be on a much larger surface, it'll be 18 by 24 inches, the figures will still be relatively small, and there's also no one photo that has all of these figures, and there's no photo where they're in these precise positions. So there's going to be a lot of challenges with this painting, but I'm really excited about it. And I think that the composition, like the idea for it, is so beautiful and inspiring. The client was living in the country of Oman, and I guess there are like these big sea turtles that, I don't know, I don't know if they migrate there or what the deal is, but anyway, his family was visiting him, and they went out to see these sea turtles going out to sea, and he wanted to just kind of capture that, a scene with his whole family. He wanted his dog to be there, even though the dog wasn't actually there in real life. So I just really love the idea, and all of the photo references he sent me were so beautiful, and then I also did my own research online about this phenomenon, so I'm pretty excited about this. And then what I will do after I have a color study is because I don't want to get this, dirty, I don't want to splash paint all over it, so I'll put it in a plastic sleeve and just have it nearby, so that when I'm kind of getting stuck or I need a little bit of guidance, I'll refer to this little color study to just kind of help me make decisions about how everything needs to come together. And usually if I do a color study for a commission, I usually do send the color study to the client. Now, I don't always do a color study. It just really depends on the parameters of the project. If it is very involved or there's no actual photo reference that depicts exactly what I'm painting, then the color study is really, really important. So I'm not constantly trying to refer to all of these different photographs that I've been sent. This kind of helps just to put it all together for me and gives me one thing to refer to, even though I still will need to refer to the photo references to some extent for some of the details in the final painting. But yeah, this is a really important step in this process for me when it's a more involved painting. And, I like to just send it along to the person. It's just a little bit of a bonus. And then, I like to imagine that maybe they decide to give it to like a family member or something. Or, they have the big painting for themselves or whoever they're sending it to, and then they have the smaller painting to do something else with. So I like to just send these along and hope it's a nice gift for people, especially if it turns out good. Sometimes these color studies don't turn out good, but they're still useful for me. And then maybe I wouldn't send it. I don't know. Not something I would ever advertise that I am sending along to people, because then I'm like doing 2 paintings. I don't really think about it as doing 2 paintings when, you know, it's part of my process, and if it turns out good, then I'll send it. But if it's not part of my process, then, you know, I'm not sending anything. So, yeah, just a little tangent there. Doing commissions can be a little bit tricky, but I've been doing them for years and have, I think, found good ways to effectively communicate with clients, which is the most important thing. I've actually learned that doing commissions, I do not send process photos of the actual painting as I'm working on it, because especially with oils and particularly with the way that I paint, I'm someone who paints really messy. Like when I start out in oil painting, it's a complete mess and it doesn't come together until the end. And I have had experiences where that really freaks people out and they think that I'm just totally off on the wrong track. And it's like, well, maybe I am, but when I'm sending progress photos and people are asking me to make these drastic changes during that phase in the process, it kind of disrupts my process, and so I never get to the painting that I would have. So I never ever send any process photos to clients at all anymore. I send them the painting or the photo of the painting when I consider it to be done. And usually, you know, they'll have maybe a couple of very small recommendations, and then I can implement those. And I find that that is much more of a successful way to approach commissions than sending process photos and having the client like worried and anxious and thinking that, you know, this mess is what they're actually going to end up with. So that's about it, you guys. The biggest challenge with this color study was actually just doing the figures, but what I end up doing is just kind of splashing a little bit of color. They were all wearing a lot of white, a lot of like khaki colors. I think that 2 figures are wearing darker pants and shorts. So I think that the thing that I'll need to keep in mind when I'm actually doing this final painting with the figures is actually just to keep them relatively simple and not to go in. I actually don't have any really tiny oil painting brushes, and I've done paintings with really small figures, and it can be really hard if my mind is like thinking that I have to have their faces like almost like portraits, like little itty bitty portraits. That just doesn't work out. So it has to just be kind of a little bit more generalized and loose. And I think that that ends up having a nicer look overall for the painting as well, if the figures can just be really loose. So I think that I'll just let this go on here. But yeah, I hope to, first of all, I hope to be able to finish the Plein Air challenge, the Plein Airpril challenge. Although, honestly, like my mind, I'm such a black and white thinker. I've been feeling really guilty that I haven't been able to keep up with the Plein Airprils for the last couple of days. But today I realized, you know what? I've been, you know, working a lot. I have had a ton of homework. It's the end of the semester, so we're getting ready for finals and stuff like that. And I've been working really hard on this commission. So, you know, as much as I want to do the Plein Airpril, sometimes, you know, you have to just let things slide. And I did it for over half of the month, and I hope to finish strong. I have this idea of how I can get caught up really quick, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not giving up on it by any means, but I'm also not going to punish myself if I can't finish like an Instagram challenge. And yeah, so that's how we should all approach those things, I think. Oh, did I mention there's a dog in here? You can barely see him. He's a little Shiba Inu, and he's really cute, and he's going to look awesome in the final painting. I'm really excited about that. All right, well, I hope that you guys are having a great day and a great rest of the week, and I hope to be back with more Plein Airprils and definitely with some tutorials. I'm going to have some tutorials to show you guys next week, because I just found out that as of next Monday, I don't really have a job for a little while. So I'm getting furloughed, I guess, which is where you're temporarily laid off. So that's a thing that's happening right now. And work has just been really crazy and stressful lately. So I don't know. I'm trying to just stay positive about it, and I'm excited that I'm going to have a lot more time to do art and to make videos. So something to look forward to. And I'm going to stop rambling now, and I hope that you guys will stay in touch. Come back, come see my tutorials next week, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.